humankind continues to be amazed with new discoveries from ancient culture and history. Among these is the horse-riding nomadic culture of the Aboriginal population of modern Kazakhstan and the ancient monuments and artifacts of the early Neolithic. These recent discoveries have become an archaeological sensation and presented new pages for the general history of early mankind. The horse had an enormous significance in the origin and establishment of a culture of a steppe population in the late Stone Age. Certainly, the last 30 years did not go in vain in studying this culture. However, I believe that the scientists will spend more than just a decade to research this historic phenomenon in the Asia steppe. None of the existing wild hippies inhabiting the Great Steppe, such as the Kulons, the Mongolian horses, the Tarpons, have the genes of a contemporary domesticated horse. Currently, all known races of horses by DNA have originated from a single mother horse, whose relics were discovered in the Botai Neolithic Aboriginal inhabitation in the vicinity of the contemporary capital of Kazakhstan. This archaeological and, widely speaking, a world cultural phenomena is the main theme of our documentary, The First Horseman. The Botai settlement was discovered in 1980 during one of the archaeological expeditions. Here, some 30 kilometers away from the Samalkol district center, the national park Kolkashatau is located, a place where this unique settlement was discovered. Some 6,000 years ago, in the 4th century BC, this place was a home for about 1,500 people. They were ancient Botai people who brought here the technology for domestication of the most ancient horse. The descendants of this horse are known as Kazakh horse breed Jabay. This horse managed to retain its genes through the centuries and to demonstrate its stamina and viability.
И показала всему миру жизненность своей породы.
It is strange and amazing how a single archaeological discovery can change our view over the entire course of modern human civilization, or rather, change the benchmark. And this benchmark is now located in the ancient inhabitation of Botai amid the Great Steppe in proximity to modern Astana. It is there that a human being, for the first time, domesticated a horse. The Botai culture is the culture of bones. Virtually all items in the Botai culture were made of horse bones. Bones were used for riding, house construction, making tools, and in some rituals as well. The cult of the skull was widely cultivated. Skulls were used for burial purposes. Some 16,000 items were researched, and 16 types of various household activities were discovered, including weaving, making skin clothes, arrowheads, and house construction.
Это и ткачество, изготовление шкур, изготовление наконечников, строительство жилищ.
The most genius discovery in the human history was the domestication of a horse, which gave an enormous push to human progress and development. When a pedestrian man saddled a horse, the pace of history whirled away. The time and space of human inhabitation condensed. People started to contact closely with each other and thus gave a beginning to a new civilization, a new world.
Батай – это слово.
The word Botai sounds like a hymn.
Батай.
The Botai culture encompasses much history of Kazakhstan. In the forest of the north parts of the settlement, the Botai people constructed enclosures for horses and even ancient horse barns to keep young horses and to milk mares. The Botai people were unique cattle breeders and horse breeders. They gave a beginning to the unique dynamic process of developing the culture of people residing on the territory of the Asia steppe.
Here we can see the main area of the Botai site in the image that is created by the magnetometer. The dark areas here are all houses. They are all semi-subterranean pit houses of a classic Botai type. We can also see surrounding many of these houses lots of small pits. These small pits commonly contain many bones, usually horse bones, but occasionally other things. It is also possible to see, although they are quite faint, one or two other traces which may be enclosures to keep horses in. There is a very fine line visible in this area which may represent some form of stockade to keep animals in.
There are good grounds for saying that only blind people can really be enlightened. Until recently, archaeology as a science focused on anthropology, and thus failed to capture the beginning of a technological revolution, as well as the significance of connecting the man and the horse, the two great origins that shaped the face of a new civilization. Archaeologists were zealous in looking for skulls of Pithecanthrope and Cro-Magnon, stone tools, then flint tools. They found and described the pieces of jars and pots, but they neglected the horse bones lying around the ancient habitations and fireplaces, and later on in the human burials. The archaeologists failed to see the great connection, and they missed the beginning of an epic of a horse domesticated, and the transition of a pedestrian man into a horseman. And while the outcome of a fish to earth is considered to be a revolution, or the beginning of herptile evolution into the mammals, for the history of modern civilization, there are two revolutionary breakthrough points, such as the appearance of pedestrian Homo sapiens and the appearance of horsemen. So, Let's go back to the time when the first domesticated horse appeared and the reason behind it.
My most recent work has been on the analysis of some of the bones of horses from the Bataille culture. And in particular, we have identified two areas of the skeleton which are very important for identifying domestication. The first of these is the lower leg bone from the front of the horse. And what we have found is that the bones of wild horses are shorter and wider. They're more stocky in appearance, and domestic horses in prehistory in Kazakhstan appear to be longer and thinner bones. We also know that those horses had been ridden because we saw what we call bit wear on the horse's mouth. The bit of a horse goes in here, and when pulled back it touches the front teeth and rubs up and down against those teeth, causing very characteristic wear patterns on the front of the teeth that we are able to identify and look at under the microscope. And we found on a stallion from Bataille very clear evidence of bitting.
While Homo sapiens was a product of evolution or divine interference, the tamed horse was created by the genius of a bowtie man. Wild horses, Hippias, are still in existence, but their genes, their DNA, are different from the genes and DNA of contemporary horses. How and when what the bowtie man was able to create a modern horse is still a mystery in many ways. However, the laboratory examinations of the samples of scrapings from ancient pots and vessels conducted by British scientists have proved that as long ago as at least 5,000 to 6,000 BC, ancient bowtie people drank kumis, mare's milk, and made it using the same recipe that is still used by the Kazakhs. The results of the genetic research are beyond argument. This means that the bowtie people were milking horses even then, leaving alone that they were riding horses that were tamed, saddled, and very accustomed to the bowtie man. This is a phenomenal discovery and revelation. This further means that ancient bowtie people, our ancestors, knew the secrets of selection and were congenial creators of high technologies and genetic engineering.
I can say that man at Bataille was certainly managing his horse as a domesticated animal, had a very close relationship with them. He could sit down with them, he could milk them and produce milk, and was clearly consuming it, as we've seen evidence of milk processing, horse milk processing in the pottery. Excited about because they show quite an ambiguous, and it's these compounds, these fatty acids, that allows.
The history of mankind is inexhaustible, and in some sense, more than a half of it is still a terra incognita. Those who try to predict the future course of history are frauds. However, the search of our past, and especially a very distant past, is always fruitful. It discredits the myths of the present and restores the reality of the past, and so the myth is replaced with the truth. The history of a first horseman proved by the Kazakhstan and British scientists, is an example of where we need to get rid of false myths and learn the very first pages of true history, the beginning of human civilization, grain by grain, tracing down the first people and the first horsemen. Maybe that first nomadic camp in the steppes of central Kazakhstan in the ancient Botai inhabitation is a prototype of a difficult but inevitable pace of a man in the universe.